If you are curious about the Twin Cities and Wright County real estate market, I am going to share some data with you. Whether you're thinking about buying or selling, I think you'll find this really helpful. And I am going to talk about reasons you might want to consider dumping your loan officer or lender. I have Molly Zimmerman back from Bell Bank Mortgage here to talk about reasons why you may want to look around for a different lender if you ever find yourself in this position. I'm Erica Carlson. I'm with a boutique brokerage called Bricks Real Estate. I help people buy real estate all over the Twin Cities, but I specialize in the Western Metro. If you have any questions through this video or you're ready to get started, below there's a link to my calendar, and please pick a time that's best for you so we can connect. If you learned anything new today, I'd love for you to join my growing channels, whether you find this on YouTube, Instagram, or my business Facebook page. So I think what we'll do is not waste any more time. We're going to bring Molly into this phone call, and then towards the end, we'll review the data.
First thing that you need to remember is you are a consumer. Your lender is there to support you with your purchase, with your transaction, with your questions. I feel like there are some red flags that exist in the world of lending. And, one of them is if you're not getting answers to your questions, that would be a major red flag. You as a consumer, you should feel like I can ask my lender this question. Not only can I ask them this question, but they're actually going to respond to it and get back to me in a timely manner. I just think feeling like you're asking questions and not getting anything in return is a big problem. I actually had a conversation with a buyer just 2 days ago, and that's kind of what her experience was with another bank that she had been working with. She said, flat out, they just weren't answering my questions. And I was very confused. I didn't understand why they weren't answering my questions. So, for her, that was the point that she decided to dump that lender, and she kind of moved on to get answers to her questions. So I think that's a big thing. And I think communication, just being able to communicate with everybody involved in the transaction, be it the real estate agent, you as a buyer, taking care of the hard work for you as a buyer so that you can basically not be super stressed out throughout the process. If your lender is not communicating, to me, that's a huge problem.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I haven't heard a lot of these things over the years, but I definitely just had a connection of just somebody that I've worked with a fair amount. And it's they're always going back to this particular loan officer. And I don't know if they have a second job or what prevents them for being proactive in their communication back. But she'll reach out to me and we'll start talking about other things. It's well, where's this person at? Have they answered that question? To be well, no, I haven't heard from them in a week. And I'm a week? Well, and I think we've talked about this before. There are people who have multiple jobs, and sometimes you have to sort of put your detective hat on and go, do they always call me after 5? Maybe, maybe they just have another job. I don't know that that should be a secret, but I do think it's to your detriment if you're not getting your answers. So, it's hard when someone's saying a week, weeks, days, hours. It's you have the right to get that information faster.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's always the one business day rule. Depending on when somebody reaches out to you, if somebody reaches out to me in the morning, obviously they're going to hear back from me that day. If it's maybe later in the day, end of hours, even if I can't answer a question at that point, I might say, hey, I got your message. I'm so sorry. I have to run, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. So, I think it's acknowledging that you've received their question. I'm not just going to leave you unanswered. I think that's, communication is huge. But I've also heard just some lenders have a very condescending way of talking to buyers. And it's how does that make you feel as a buyer? If you feel like you're constantly being talked down to, or maybe feel dumb for asking a certain question, you should never, ever, ever feel that way in a transaction. As a lender, I have to keep in mind, this is my job. This is what I do every day. But as a consumer, you're not buying a house every day. You're not going through this process every day. You should ask the question. No question is bad. And no lender should make you feel bad for asking any question.
Absolutely. I don't think people do this every day. There's very few people that understand what real estate feels like on a day-to-day basis. Most professionals understand this is something you do a couple times in your life We do not expect, expert status. And so, really, that like actually like that this isn't the point of our video by any means, but like please ask questions. Like I think there's so many people out there that nod their head, they don't want to look dumb, they don't want to like ask you what did that particular word mean. Anyway, I think that this is a really important conversation. There's times where, and I think we've said many times, like you don't have to go with the first person you meet. It's your job to shop it around. We are certainly a local and we're a local option and we'd love to help you. So we'd love to have a chance to have that conversation with people, even if it's a second opinion.
I would agree. And I think it's just keeping in mind there's a lot of lenders out there. So, like, if you're not feeling heard and like if you're not being treated the right way or, valued the right way and you don't feel good about it, move on to the next. You're going to find somebody that's a better fit for you. And, you're going to feel better throughout the process, which you should feel. You should feel good throughout the process.
Exactly. All right. This data is only a few days old, and we're going to just look at the Twin Cities at large before we jump into Wright County. You can see that we're in a buyer's market. That's what's important for you to know whether you're buying or selling. So when you think about on the selling side, it's going to take almost 2 months potentially to sell your property. And so you want to set that expectation in yourself so you're not disappointed if it doesn't sell the first weekend you hit the market. Of course, that first weekend is super important, so don't discount what I'm saying in case you are lucky and get it sold immediately. But do set your expectation for that month and a half to 2 months, maybe longer, depending on the type of property that you own. Again, we're speaking very generically here, so it's hard for me to advise you when I'm speaking to, such a large mass of people. Interest rates have peaked up a little bit more. We were, I think, at 7% when I made this video last week. This week we're at 7.125. You want to check with your loan officer and see regarding your loan package, your situation. This is a very generic number just to give you an idea of how the market is moving. And then inventory is up over last year. You can see now we're at 7%. There's definitely not as many listings as there will be in the spring. However, there's going to be way more competition. So if you're thinking about that buying or selling process, you're trying to figure out your timing, of course, the answer is we buy and sell at the best time for us. But if there's other factors that are important, you're going to want to work with your local agent and your loan officer to figure out the timing that works best for you. There's going to be pros and cons. So right now, again, because we're in a buyer's market, there's certainly going to be some advantages as a buyer and disadvantages as a seller. That will change after the new year, most likely. No crystal ball here, but that's what I'm guessing. Let's move over to the Wright County data. So there are two common questions that most people have. How long would it take me to sell my property, in the event you were ready to do that? And, is my value of my property going up or down? And we're speaking about Wright County at large. So let's talk about, is your property value going up? Well, or down? So a lot of you just got your proposed 2025 statement. So you probably know the answer to this, but yes, the answer is your property with good care and maintenance is assumatively going up over time, depending on lots of circumstances about your condition, of course, but assuming it's a generally well taken care of property. You can see going back to 2022, a house, let's say on average was 402, now it's 418. So that's a decent chunk of change, and you might see that reflected in your property value. I know this is great news when you go to sell a house, but people generally don't like hearing this as much when they're homeowners. Now, let's say you said to me, how long would it take me to sell this house? I gave you an idea with the Twin Cities snapshot that I believe it was in the 40s. So if you said to me, okay, my house is in Wright County, right? It's not in the Twin Cities metro, that's a pretty generic way of saying that. It does take longer in Wright County because we are in a more rural area, less demand. So now it jumps up to 52 days on average to sell a property. Now, if you had a townhouse, a condo, lakefront acreage, maybe a house that needed a lot of work, et cetera, all of these variables are going to change this, but you should be prepared if you were to put your house on the market right now. A month and a half, 2 months is pretty average, maybe longer depending on things. This is not a particular price point. Like this is all Wright County properties. So as we get into nuances, under 200, above 700K, like again, lakefront, acreage, like all these things are going to change things. So if you have any questions, I appreciate that you made it to the end with me. I'm always here for you as a local resource. Again, I'm Erica. I'm with Bricks Real Estate. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a great week.